Hey guys, good afternoon. Welcome to the Let's Talk About It Minot podcast. I'm your host, Rob Fuller. Trusty sidekick Jonathan Starr sitting here next to me. We've been having some off-camera talks already, so we're excited about this this podcast today. So, big weekend football-wise. National championship on Monday night. I heard you guys on your Tuesday podcast talking a little bit about sports. I haven't watched a lot of NFL stuff in the last 5-6 years because of the kneeling thing. I was really disenfranchised after that. But I'll tell you what, all 4 games this weekend were surprisingly good football games. And because it was negative 50 degrees outside, we were stuck in the house and kind of watched them. But
so I mean, a couple of those were snow games, so that's
felt
relatable too.
Fun to watch, dude. I mean, it just really good games, and there was some surprises. I was stunned. I honestly, this whole time, thought it was going to be Detroit and the Chiefs. And I was stunned that Detroit lost to the Commanders. And the reason you don't like the Commanders is because they were stupid and changed their name. I'm just going to say that right now. So I heard you talk about that on Tuesday. Like, hey, I'm not sure how I feel about the Commanders. You hate the Commanders because they changed their name. They succumbed to the DEI BS.
That's right. Well, things changed in Washington now. Maybe they can change it back.
Hopefully. Hopefully, I think it's going to depend on the ownership. Right? So, but I mean, a lot of stuff going on
Who's
this
in the
week.
Super Bowl then?
Right now, who do I want to see or who's going to make it?
Give me both.
Okay, I would like to see Buffalo and Philadelphia, quite honestly. I mean, the Commanders are great. The Jaden Daniels story is fantastic. Yeah. I don't think that team, though, and now I didn't think they could beat Detroit either, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't think that team could beat either the Bills or the Chiefs, quite honestly. So I would like to see the Bills and the Eagles. I think that would be the best game.
I'm with you. So. That's what I want. I don't like the Chiefs at all, and we've already heard me talk about the Commanders. So
well, I mean, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like, everybody hates a winner, right? I mean, they're going for a three-peat, which would be kind of cool. I mean, never been done, those types of things.
But I enjoyed the Patriots dynasty, so I can't enjoy the Chiefs dynasty.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're a Patriots fan, there's no accounting for taste. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, come on. The colors alone, growing up, when you see the red, white, and blue, you can't
red, white, and silver. You mean red, white, and silver? Red, white, and blue are the Bills.
Yeah, they got blue all over what they're going on in the Patriots. Yeah, I want to be a Patriot.
Where's the white?
Do you want to be a Patriot?
There's blue, red, and silver.
They have every team has white in their jersey.
The outline or whatever it is. So anyway, but big week nationally. Obviously, the Trump inauguration. You guys talked a little bit about that. A lot of bills moving through the state legislature.
Yeah, I can never say that right.
Yeah,
it's been busy. You're not wrong there.
No.
It's been Trump got to work very quickly, which I guess is common. But
did you watch any of the inauguration stuff?
I saw a couple clips.
Yeah.
I heard a little bit about his speech. A lot of people enjoyed some of the prayers that were made.
Yeah.
And saw Carrie Underwood impressively. That's
going
crazy,
a cappella
man.
like that. I mean, and she sounded fantastic. Like, poor me, if I was out there, I'd sound like somebody killing cats or something,
Bad moment.
I turned it on. I got up, took my wife to work so she didn't have to park her car outside all day because of how cold it was. Came home. Boys and I, they're like, Dad, can we do this? Can we do that? And I said, you know what? You guys we'll eat breakfast. You can do anything you want. But when President Trump takes the oath of office, we're going to stop and we're going to sit down and watch this. And so my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old, we sat there for a half an hour and watched it. And my 6-year-old, who has the congenital heart defect that we're having the surgery on, he looks at me. And it was such a pure moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, he goes, hey, Dad, does President Trump know I'm having heart surgery?
Oh, wow.
And I kind of smiled and I said, no, buddy, I don't think President Trump knows that. Could we write him a letter and tell him?
That's neat.
And I said, yeah, we can. So, yesterday I had a lot going on with city council and the funeral for Lieutenant McLeod and everything like that. But I was able to find the address where you can send letters to the White House to the president. And so tonight him and I are going to sit down and write a letter to let President Trump know. And again, I mean, I thought it was very self-aware of him, talking about such things at 6. But how cool would it be to get that letter back, get something back and say,
That'd
hey,
so
good
neat.
luck,
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, if that's what the kid wants to do, they were surprised me. They both surprised me with watching it and the things they understood and didn't understand. But I'll be honest. And then when he was done with his oath, they went back to do their thing. I sat there with it on all day and just soaked it in. I was like 4 years of negativity just washing away, you know? So it was great for me. But there was some things that happened, like you were talking about the acapella thing. So one of the big things, and I didn't hear you guys talk about it on Tuesday. Have you seen the clip of after Trump takes the oath of office where Barron Trump goes over, shakes Joe's hand, says something to him, shakes Kamala's hand, says something again to Joe, walks away. Joe's like, what? You know, you could tell he was like upset by the comment. Yeah. And then Barron just turns back and looks at him. Did you see that clip? Have you seen that?
So I've seen like a 5-second clip on Twitter or X, and everyone's saying he wasn't talking to Biden, but he's talking to Harris.
He talked to both of them.
Yeah, see, and so if you see the full clip, you'll see that.
Well, and if you go out and
that's good.
Google it.
Yeah.
There's a guy that's famous for lip reading. Okay. Right? Have you seen this part of it?
No, I haven't.
So he says he reads Barron's lips. He is the world's renowned lip reader guy. Go Google it. Right. He reads Barron's lips, and Barron looks at Joe Biden and says, "We won, mother effer." And that was what they said he said. And I was like, what? No,
he did that.
I'm like, that's crazy. Savage if he did.
That's crazy.
But you know, people take and they spin it in every single direction they can. You know, I mean, they're talking about the Elon Musk thing too, with him doing that Roman our hearts. You know, like
he's getting raked over for that one.
And I was talking. I had lunch with a friend of mine before I came up here. So here comes the absurd, you know, media circus for the next 4 years and about all the derogatory things that, I mean, it's just like, do I really have to listen to you clowns for another 4 years?
Yeah, so, it's brutal. That part is brutal. The Roman, they're trying to tie it to Nazi.
Yeah.
The Nazis
and I don't know if that's where the Nazis actually got that,
you
know, their Sig Heil thing from, but I mean, I'm pretty sure Elon Musk is not a Nazi, never has been. Yeah. You know, I mean, and he was, you know, our hearts are.
Yeah, right.
So.
So either he said that statement so that way he had a way out.
Yeah.
Which seems unlikely.
Or it's just really one of those moments. Guy, is he? You know?
I don't know.
What else happened that day? There was the, I heard you guys talk about Vivek.
Yeah.
Ducking out of Doge to go do the.
Well, how do you feel about this?
You know, I think it's a good. I think it's a good idea. I mean, I heard Kyler's comment that he doesn't think Doge is going anywhere. I'll take that bet, Kyler, just so they are going to dismantle our government. I know there's going to be tons of lawsuits, but I mean they're going to dismantle our government, and I think a very good way for the American people. Could Vivek help? Sure, but I think him and Elon Musk are going to hire the right people, and then he can go run for governor, because we are going to need a strong governor in Ohio in 4 years, because what's his name that's there will be done. And we want to continue to keep that state a red state, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that when Bush was in office, that was a swing state.
Yep.
And when Trump won the first time, we realized it was no longer a swing state. They thought it was going in and coming out.
I mean, there's still some, you know, I think that state, they have a Republican governor and a Democrat state legislature, if I'm not mistaken. And so, I mean, it kind of pulls both ways depending on what's going on, but I think it'll be a good thing.
Mike DeWine is the current one.
Thank you.
Down.
Couldn't think of his name.
So, it's an interesting move. Some wanted him to run for senator, Vivek to run for senator, or be appointed.
I was going to say, doesn't the governor get to appoint for the Senate? House seats have to be run for. I think you and I have had that conversation one other time on the Florida stuff.
So some wanted him to be appointed to Senate, but I think governor would be a better spot for him, honestly.
How about what did Trump do? 32, 34 executive orders, whatever it was?
He did
some
a ton
great
of stuff.
ones.
Yeah.
Some great
What was
ones.
your favorite one?
Honestly, and I think you and I were talking about this a little bit off camera, I think designating the cartels, terrorist organizations, and hinting that, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll send the military down there. I think that sends a strong message to Mexico. You clean your stuff up, or we're gonna. We're tired of you sending drugs across the border, killing our people, infecting our children and stuff like that. You take care of it, or we're gonna. honestly, besides the one where he rescinded every Joe Biden executive order, those were my two favorites. So
yeah, I think this is a take that I have. It feels like people try to pin you into this spot where you have to like everything that Trump does.
Yeah.
And that's an unfair deal, because you cannot convince me that if you are on the left that you appreciated everything that Biden did.
Yeah.
There's got to be some orders, some things that he did that you just weren't as much of a fan on. And I'm not saying that as a cop out right now, because there's not one that comes to mind. But I think, like, I've seen people lashing out like, oh, he's really going to do this. And it's like, okay, so that one, I don't know how I feel directly about that, whatever. But you're telling me that you're not fine with the cartels being designated as this.
How could anybody in this country say, you know, that's a bad idea?
Right.
Like, I'm not even going to go with Trump. Let's take the Lake and Riley Act, which was the first piece of legislation to go through. I think they had 4 Democrat senators out of the 40 whatever they have vote with them. Okay? So you're telling me that 40 educated individuals in this country said that it's not a good idea for illegal immigrants who come here and commit crimes to be deported.
Right.
You are not eligible to make decisions for this country. You are a moron, quite honestly. Like, if you think it's okay to let criminals into this country and them commit crimes and not to deport them, all you're doing is playing politics. You have no actual governance whatsoever in your mind. Yeah. So
that's fair. Right. And that's the kind of stuff that it's just like
you have your extremes.
Step out of politics here.
You have your extremes. The people on the left that love everything the left does, and the people on the right that love everything the right does. And then you have most of us normal people in the middle that are like, you're both a bunch of imbeciles. Just do, and like Trump said, common sense.
Yeah.
Common sense.
What's best for the country?
Yep.
What is best? Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico. Who knows?
I sent you the text, but I'll wait. I'll be wearing that T-shirt here shortly. So
love it.
You know,
Greenland. I know we talked about some of this, like that right there. If that gets done, I mean, I probably am just very naive, but I think that could actually be a really good thing.
Well, I think that, and the McKinley thing, right? I mean, we have had. Mount McKinley was named after President McKinley for what, 50, 60 years? Right. And hey, let's change it because we didn't like one thing he did or policy. Yeah. I'm so tired, and I'm not just going to say the one side, but the left seems to be more often than not all about these social changes rather than better changes for our country. Really, who cares if we call it Mount Denali or Mount McKinley? I don't think Alaska cares. I don't think us in North Dakota care. Why would we go change everything? You're going to change the name of the Statue of Liberty next? Right. You know, is that the next thing?
Right.
So, you want to call it partisan politics. More than that, though, the social justice BS that we've seen these last 5 to 10 years, it just has to end in this country so we can do business as a country, and all of us that are stuck in the middle aren't getting squashed by the government and everything else that's going on. You know, somebody that actually cares.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that progresses. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about.
I think there's going to be a lot of great things. A lot of great things nationally. I'm excited. You know, and yesterday was a tough day, obviously, with the funeral and everything. But I woke up yesterday morning and I was like, I'm pretty excited for after yesterday. You know, the inauguration, things are going to start changing. I mean, did you see the DEI offices? So yesterday he put out the executive order. Every single DEI office in the federal government needs to start shuttering by today. Like, he didn't say, hey, you have till the end of the month.
He said right away.
Yeah, right now.
And they went and had it set up, from my understanding, where if anybody changed job descriptions, you have to use a job description that was used basically November 5th when he was elected.
Is that what it was?
So that way they couldn't go and try to cover positions or whatever.
Well, I also saw that they went, the acting director of the FBI, while they're waiting for Kash Patel to be approved, and Pam Bondi for the Department of Justice. I think they said they reorganized like 20 people in the Department of Justice, specifically the FBI. And they said, because it's hard to fire somebody in the federal government, right, for not doing their job, you can be reassigned and just left to basically, and they did that to between 10 and 20 people. Wow. So, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Feeling the effects of Doge already.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait for them to start cutting
Yeah,
So-
that would be good. Yeah.
So,
that's
anything else on the federal level that you can?
No, it's
No?
Just, I'm just looking forward to the next few weeks.
I know,
There's
dude.
gonna be
There's
a
going to
lot
be
of,
so much to
a
talk
lot
about.
of interesting things to talk about.
Well, and one of my favorites is watching like the left side meltdown. You know, the CNNs, the Rachel Maddow's, the freaking what's her name on CNN, Joy Reid, the ladies on The View. I eat that stuff up. I don't know why, but watching them melt down. Now, I don't watch their shows, but watching the clips of them melt down to me is entertaining.
Yeah.
Like somebody needs to just create a whole TikTok channel with that stuff.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
Well, there's something.
Right?
TikTok. That was gone for like a few hours.
18 hours.
18
hours because Trump said, you know what? When I get into office, I'm going to give him 90 days to work this out.
Yeah.
And if he can't, we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah.
So,
I know we talked about it on Tuesday, but what do you think about the government owning it?
I'm
Because
opposed to that.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
opposed to that because, I mean, here's the thing. You have this piece of technology and you say, hey, China's using it to spy on us.
Yeah.
Well, if the federal government owns it, I wonder what they're going to do,
Yeah,
right? I
right,
mean,
yeah.
I think it's going to be, with everything that's gone on, and I'm not saying Trump and his administration are going to be like that, but with all the First Amendment issues that happened on social media under the Biden administration and the, you know, Meta finally admitting it and everything else, right? All this stuff that happened, I don't think we need to give the government, because I don't believe Trump and those guys would use it, right? But there's parts of our government, the CIA, the FBI,
they can't help
the
but use
liberals
it.
when they get back, if they ever get back into power, hopefully not, but that will use it against the people.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm opposed to it.
Makes sense.
I think a private entity owning it, you know, and I don't care if I think the proposal is half of the entity would be Chinese, but not associated with the Chinese government, and the other half would be like Kevin Leary and his group or whoever it is. And, you know, they can work it out. I think that's the best way to do it.
Right, yeah.
So.
No, I agree.
What did you think of the thing yesterday, the announcement with the three big tech guys about all the gosh, I can't think of the data centers.
Oh, break this down. I missed this piece.
Did
of
you
news.
really?
Yes.
So yesterday afternoon, they're calling it Stargate, I believe is what they said.
no.
Stargate. They are going to invest $500 billion into data centers across this country.
Right.
To help with the AI advancement. So AI, and it was Google, Bezos, and who was the other one?
It's got to be Zuckerberg, right? Not much.
No, I don't think it was Zuckerberg. I'd have to pull up my phone and look. Anyway, but it's a big announcement, and you know, I don't know if you've been paying attention. Have you watched about any of the data center stuff? So they've brought up North Dakota a number of times as prime places for these giant data centers because the cold.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
Would help in the
sense.
energy needs and everything. But with that, you know, they talk about what is the way we're going to power these things. Well, it's nuclear energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Have to have nuclear energy. It's the most efficient and best way. Well, North Dakota now, I don't know if you've been paying attention to some of the bills going through the state legislature.
Yeah.
North Dakota House Bill 1025 is a bill to get funds to start looking at bringing nuclear energy to North Dakota.
Right.
Now, did you and I talk about this? There's been rumors, and I haven't substantiated these rumors, but I've been told Xcel Energy was here a number of months ago.
Okay.
Talking about northwest of Minot, up towards a small town up there, building a nuclear power plant for not only the base, but the needs that the base will have when they come in to do the Sentinel project.
Wow.
So, I mean, all these things are happening with nuclear energy and those things. Did you pull it up on your computer there?
With Oracle,
There you go.
GPT creator, OpenAI, and Japanese conglomerate SoftBank.
Oh, it wasn't Bezos. You're
But-
right. There you go.
Yeah. So Sam Altman,
Yep.
Larry Ellison.
Those were the three.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then at attendance. Oh, never mind. That was something else.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
so I mean, to me, that was a big announcement yesterday
Yeah.
because Trump's saying, hey, the U.S. is going to lead the world in AI.
Right. That's huge.
It is.
Whoa, the U.S. leading the world and stuff again.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Instead of being the apology nation.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And
So-
helping everybody else out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, that's secondary. But Greenland and Panama Canal, and I know I went pretty in depth on this on Tuesday, but that's why those actually excite me a little bit, is because it's like, okay, wait a minute, we're going to stop being this defensive nation that's trying to fit in with everybody else, and we're going to start saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to start acting like we're the world power.
And if you don't like it, and you don't get any money from us, we're not going to support you and your economy and your people and give you billions of dollars.
Right.
Sorry.
We shouldn't be arrogant. We shouldn't be something that tries to be bullies on the world stage, but we should be able to stand our ground and say, no, this is something that we need based off how the world's turning.
Yeah. Again, this is how America is going to be, and this is our philosophy. Yep. You don't have to agree with it, but if you don't agree with it, we're not going to support you either. You don't get money. Right. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting to see the nuclear stuff.
I think that would be huge. I mean, because again, what better energy source do we have in this country? I know there was some issues in the past, right? 3 Mile Island, and but I mean, it is the safest, best use sourced energy out there, and we've taken it. All these green energy people are like, get rid of fossil fuels, get rid of fossil fuels. Okay, well, let's do. Oh, we can't do nuclear. That's bad too. Oh, okay. Well, go out and blow on your windmill. Let's see if we can get any energy. I mean, it's just, we have the resources, we have the knowledge, we have the know-how. Why don't we use it to our advantage? I mean, look at Europe. Europe is using nuclear energy like crazy to power most of the different countries over there. Wow. But here we sit in the United States because we put a moratorium on it because, it's bad, a meltdown, we'll have a nuclear. Cripe. We got a better chance of somebody walking across the border with a dirty bomb than a nuclear facility actually imploding.
Wow. So, right now there's a high chance of that. Yeah. Although it's being worked on.
It's getting better.
Yeah, every day now, every day. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. So these drones and this legislation against these drones. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God, that's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I'm switching topics here. No, I'm still on one of your topics.
Yep. But state stuff.
But the DJI, like if you talk to people in the industry, and you probably have, but the DJI is the leader. They're the best.
They're fantastic. I mean, their commercial drones are like the Minot PD has 3 of their drones currently. They're a fantastic drone. Yeah. I mean, they. For the money, best bang for the buck type thing that,
And what I've understood is the American-made drones, they're more expensive and they're not as good.
Correct. From what I've, the ones that are being represented in the bill, they're not as high a quality. They don't have as many features, and they are more expensive. Why would we do that? Why? Yeah. I mean, from what I was told, and I don't know, again, I haven't been able to source this, but that the United States Air Force contacted legislators in North Dakota and said, hey, all your state agencies use these DJI drones. We're concerned that China, who manufactures these, has a way to bleep into them and see anything that you guys are seeing. So if you're doing stuff in and around our installations, they'll be able to see that. Yeah. Now, and of course, there's always been rumors out there, but nowhere has it ever been proven that DJI gives any information to the Chinese government or anything else. So, I thought this one was kind of weird. I'm kind of shrugging my shoulders, like, so you're going to make every agency in the state that already has drones replace them with taxpayer dollars, and what are you going to do with the other drones? You just going to throw them away then?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and if America is that concerned about it, then do better, America. It obviously is difficult, but I mean, let's be a world power then. Let's get some drones that lead the way.
Well, I mean, we let balloons fly over our country looking at our bases, and it didn't bother anybody.
Yeah. Why are they so concerned about the drones in North Dakota?
I don't know.
And not New Jersey?
Well, again, I don't think New Jersey has 600 nuclear missiles in the ground or whatever it is. So
fair. Yeah. They just have a couple of bases.
Do they have bases in New Jersey?
It seems like they had one or something.
Okay. I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I could be wrong. So that's one bill. That's what bill was that? House Bill 1038, right? HB 1038 is the one on drones.
Gotcha.
I've been over the last few days, last week, whatever, I've been getting on the legislative website and looking at the different things and listening to testimony on some of them and reading them. And I mean, I've been looking at ones that I thought were odd. I like odd or exciting, right? The 1038 1025 for the nuclear stuff. I think that's fantastic. 1038, I think that one's weird because there's never been any proof that the drones give information or there's a way to get information to China. 1045 or 1145. Did you look at that one? The 10 commandments in the public schools. And
this one's a tough one for me.
Okay. How come?
I don't think it should be mandated.
Okay. Why not?
Why not? Because I think that we need to be careful with the type of mandates that we put in place. If you know me, you know that I have strong Christian values.
Yeah.
So
but you're Switzerland.
It's not there. Yeah. You also know that. Okay. You are quick to point that out. But if it was mandated, like when you somewhere in the school, that's great. I believe that it's supposed to be mandated in every classroom. Stuff like that.
I think they said, they would like to see a copy of it in every classroom, just like there's an American flag in every classroom, or used to be, whatever.
Yeah, I do say that I have said this, and I do stand by it. I think that religion in America has progressed dramatically since our founding fathers came over, when they were worried about
religious freedom.
Protestant and Anglican, and their doctrines are basically what they were trying to say. Hey, we shouldn't have a state government telling us what our doctrine is. We should be able to have that independently. And I agree with that. Like, we shouldn't be having a state saying that North Dakota is a Catholic state and that's the state religion. Like that would be crazy. Okay. But I think America is a Christian nation.
Christian, yep.
Should be a Christian nation, and that's not a religion.
Nope.
I mean, if someone's trying to turn Christianity into that, it's so broad with all the different layers of Christianity these days. You can't really say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian," and understand what somebody believes. Like now, you got to ask like 3 or 4 more questions, and then you begin to understand, right? So I think with how religion has progressed, I do think that it would be good to have a stronger presence in schools and in other places like that. And I do believe that when it's taken out, there has been a moral code that has also been taken out, and I think that we see that.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, and I don't know how many teachers you do or don't know in the public school system or whatever. But it's not like the bill is requiring anybody to come in every day and pray.
Right.
Not requiring them to come in and profess their faith as Catholic, Christian, or anything else. It's just like, hey, we just want to hang this in the schools because we believe that God should be reincorporated back into our society because he's been taken out of so many things. Right? I think you would, knowing you as I do, I think you would agree with that too, right?
Yeah. I think that having that in the schools is a plenty good thing.
Yeah.
And I think having more accessibility for some of those things is a good thing. And it seems like during COVID that there were things that began to get exposed because people began to become very conscious of what was going on in schools with the masks.
Yep.
And there was a realization that there's a lot of activities that go on in school that you wouldn't want your kids in, and yet it's very difficult to get a Christian group started.
You can, and again, I'm not picking on anything, but I'm going to just use this one. You could put a Star of David in there. Mm-hmm. Nobody says anything.
Yeah.
You could put LGBTQT flag in there.
Right.
Nobody says anything. But if you want to put something religious in there, everybody starts to, why is that? Why is there such an opposition to that? To me, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think I could give an answer, but
Please do.
It might turn philosophical, I think, because people, there's this term that says, don't judge me, right?
Yeah.
And the Bible, if you believe in Christianity, then the Bible itself would bring just a layer of conviction in itself. And so having that there brings that to people when they know that they are doing things that go against that. I think that's part of it. So yeah.
But I mean, look at the other things we do in the schools too, right? Like, I don't know if you've heard this or not in the Minot public school systems. You can't dress up anymore for Halloween. Used to be a thing when we were kids, but you don't get to dress up anymore.
I didn't hear about this.
Yes, because some of the kids that are there, their families don't believe in that, right? They're a different religion that doesn't believe in that stuff. So now all the kids that do believe in it or are okay with it don't get to do it. So if we're going to go to that level and do those things, why couldn't we put the 10 Commandments in the room and just hang them there? Nobody's got to do anything with them.
That's crazy to me that the Minot Public Schools would do that for Halloween.
Yeah. You don't get to dress up for Halloween. There's no dress up for Halloween days.
I've better reasons than that somebody doesn't support it. I mean, that's part of like where I'm coming from, though. Right. The school shouldn't. I mean, I get that is something more.
But they say, oh, you know what? We're Muslim or we're whatever we are, and we don't believe in that. So we don't want our kids not going to do it, and it offends us that you let every other kid do it.
And on a personal level, like I don't celebrate Halloween at all on a personal level. Okay, but
you will. You got kids.
Okay, we'll see. But that doesn't mean that my personal views should dictate
override everybody else's. Yeah.
When I'm in the minority, it's something where if that's something that's so strong to me, where I don't want, then hey, teacher, I'm going to stay home from school on that day,
or I'm just not going to participate. I mean, this whole thing in society today, where somebody gets so offended that everybody else can't do it because it offends them, just step away. Right. You know, it's kind of like the Facebook thing. You don't like a post? Keep scrolling.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. And it's the same thing with the schools. So if you don't like it, it's okay.
There are certain moral things that doesn't apply to, and I know you agree with that, but I want to make that clear. Like there are some things that I do believe do not belong in schools, because I think that it becomes a moral thing that negatively influences kids and the future generations that should not be around them, and they should be able to make those decisions for themselves.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Again, just because we hang a plaque in there that has a list of the 10 Commandments on it doesn't mean we're going to teach religion in public schools.
Well, what's crazy about that, I probably interrupted you, so I apologize, but what's crazy about that is like, tell me which one of those you disagree with.
Yeah, which one of the 10 Commandments you're opposed to, please.
Maybe if you're a about there only being one God, something like that, using the name of the Lord in vain because you just don't believe in that name. Like those could be something that you disagree with, but generally speaking, you're going to agree with the 10 Commandments.
Thou shalt not kill.
Right.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Right.
Thou shalt honor thy father and mother.
Right.
Where are the bad things in there? I mean, maybe some of the kids in public school today need to hear some of those things.
I think the kids in public school need to.
All schools.
I think the grown-ups need to hear it. Yeah. I think.
All right, Switzerland, way to cover me. Thanks. And then let's see what other ones are out there. House Bill 1430 had me a little bit concerned. If you've looked at that one at all, I did reach out this morning to one of the state senators that's on the bill is supporting it, and asked some more questions, because what this bill has to do with is it would make it legal for social workers to offer conversion therapy to adolescents, children who come in and may have confusing questions or whatever. Now,
So let me get this straight. We can't have the 10 Commandments in the school because that offends somebody, but the government will pay for therapy for people that are going through this conversion thing.
I don't know if the government's going to pay for it. I mean, in this.
But this.
So what happened was a few years ago, there was a piece of legislation that came through, and it made it illegal for a social worker. Let's say my child walks into their counselor at school, or they say social worker, and says, hey, you know what? I'm confused. I don't know if I'm gay. I don't know if I like boys or girls, blah, 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 whatever it is. That social worker could not talk to them about anything. They made it illegal. So they couldn't say, hey, you know what? You're not confused or you're okay. They literally made it illegal where that social worker would get in trouble and fined. And so what this bill does is it makes it okay for that person to talk to that child, student, or whatever it may be. Now, I don't know that that's the time or place for it.
Right.
But if you have somebody approach you, rather than make it illegal, I guess I'm not opposed to them saying, hey, maybe go home and talk to your mom and dad, or maybe do this. Or you don't want to talk to your parents. What are your concerns? But yeah, for them to make it illegal a number of years ago, that seems odd to me.
That could be a strong take. They just didn't want to be in the middle of it at all.
Right.
Basically, the answer on something like that should be go home, talk to your parents.
Well, and I agree with you, but there's going to be kids and there's going to be adolescents. I mean, who's the last person they ever want to talk to? Mom and dad.
Right. But that's such a big issue. Like,
that's a huge one.
You've got to talk to your mom and dad about that one.
Yeah. I mean, what, it's kind of like the sex ed class, right? And
Mhm.
everything in schools. Sixth grade, we were talking about it, and I was in Catholic school. So, very broad. It wasn't like detailed stuff.
Yeah.
And I asked my teacher, well, how does this happen and this happen? And she's like, go home and ask your parents.
Right.
And that's what ultimately I had to do.
Right. It's a great answer.
Yeah. And Mom checked a book out of the Trinity Nursing Library from, I believe the book was from 1960 something.
There you go.
And brought it home and had me look at it. And I was like, what's this?
Yeah.
So
It's
anyway,
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting things for sure.
So what other state stuff? You got
What
any other
about the one that got voted down about the Saturday on Sundays not being open?
Oh, the blue law one?
Yep.
Again? I'm fine with that.
In place or voted down? Like, did you kind of want it to pass, or were you fine with it being voted down?
I'm fine with it being voted down.
Yeah.
Again, it's let's go back to the school talk. If you're a business and Sunday isn't a big thing for you, religion-wise, and you want to be open, who are we to tell you you can't be open?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. When I moved back to North Dakota in 2012, I had been used to everything being open in Colorado on Sundays, and so I was like, "Gosh, how backwards are we up here?"
Right.
Why aren't we open? And I had heard different things. Some big names out of Fargo were opposed to it, so they own big businesses and didn't want to have to pay employees on Sunday. Well, whatever. Eventually it got passed and we're open, but
Right.
I think you leave it up to the individual, whether they want to go out and shop and do something, and the business, whether they want to be open or not.
Yeah. They don't have to be open. Yeah.
Why does the state need to step in and mandate?
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
My church's services in the afternoon,
Okay.
so it really put a hamper on my day because you couldn't go out and get breakfast in the morning
Right.
before church.
What could you do?
You just
And honestly,
stayed home.
like my wife, when she moved up here in 2013 before we got married, so I moved back here in 2012, she moved back here, and we were, I'd say end of 2013, 2014, and Sundays would come along and she's like, well, what should we go do? And I was like, we can't go do anything.
Right,
There's nothing to do, right?
Yep.
There's nothing open.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a
So
different world. Yeah. Well, what about when you go? I believe, I can't be wrong, but it seems like there's some places where Saturdays that way a little bit.
Well, I believe if you go to Utah, everything is closed on Saturday because that is their day of
Right. Basically, their Sabbath.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And isn't that in the Jewish too?
Yeah, if you-
Jewish communities,
Yep.
Saturdays are the
Right.
holy day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So that would be a crazy impact.
well, yeah.
But yeah, very, very interesting things going on down at the state with some of that stuff, including this Governor Armstrong coming out with this proposed tax plan
Okay. For property taxes, you're
for
referring
property
to.
taxes.
Yeah. Now,
And-
isn't there 52 different?
There's so many of
There's
them
52 different bills, and I know his has a lot of backing because he's the
because
governor.
it's governor.
Yeah.
But to me, it wasn't even like complete. It was like, yeah, basically what we're going to do is increase the credit.
Well,
Big whoop.
over the course of 10 years, but over the course of the next 10 years, what they say is by increasing that credit, everybody's primary house will be tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
So you own a house, whatever you're paying in taxes within the next 10 years, you won't be paying any of that. The state will be paying it.
But isn't that putting a Band-Aid on the problem?
It is. It's not the correct fix. It's not the correct fix at all. So you want to increase the buy downs, which is from our tax money and oil revenue taxes, right? And then you want to cap the cities on what they can and can't do every year.
That's the tricky part right there.
Right. Fix it the right way instead of the wrong way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The credits is so weird because
and they're going to hit us with we have to show that on our tax returns every year that we got income for it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
That's ridiculous.
The problem, like this was begin a little controversial. The problem with property tax, from a lot of the people I've talked to, is yes, it's too high, right? But it's not that. They don't feel like it's being assessed properly, fairly.
Agreed.
That's the problem with it.
Yeah.
And so because of that assessment, it feels like you're paying rent on something that the city and state has full control over and can move to whatever.
Well, and that's an absolutely fantastic point. What they've done by mandating in the Century Code that you have to be within 10% of the assessed value of the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, appraised value, not assessed, the appraised value of the house. So if a house would appraise at 700,000, you have to be at 630,000 minimum, right? Well, what does that do? That incentivizes cities every year. So like, let's take the Minot City Council, okay? Because that's what I'm a part of.
Yep.
We did, in my opinion, a great job this year bringing property taxes down. We knocked property taxes down 30 basis points in the city of Minot. So if you elect the correct people in your town, township, city, whatever it is, that are opposed to property taxes, right? I know we're not going to allow property taxes to go up in the city of Minot while I'm on city council, at least.
Right.
But what can the city do? The city can say, oh, well, you know what? Bump those assessments a little bit, so that way we get our money back anyway. That has to be fixed, right? That has to change. That has to go away because it just incentivizes the cities to keep raising the prices of those homes and values. And then you see what's going on in this country right now. I mean, it's happening all over. The price of homes is so out of whack that most people now will never be able, like college kids coming out of school, will never be able to afford to own their own home. Like we were talking about this the other day. There's some lots in Minot that we're talking about being developed. Let's say the lot is $100,000 after you put infrastructure in and everything else. You cannot build a house in Minot, North Dakota for less than $500,000 anymore.
Right.
How on earth are young people going to afford to buy a $500,000 house?
Right.
Like
it's completely true.
It is. And so the property tax issue has to be fixed correctly because all we're doing right now, I mean, with all the inflationary pressure in this country on the cost of materials to build and all that stuff, and then you have the cities and all the townships raising the prices as well, it's creating this bubble. And we talk about a bubble from 2008, 2009. Yeah. We're going to see a bigger bubble in the housing market in the next year, I think, in my opinion.
So 2025 or 2026?
End of 2025 into 2026. It's not sustainable.
Does North Dakota stay protected? Does Minot stay a little protected because of Project Sentinel?
I don't think so because we haven't seen any effects of Project Sentinel yet. I mean, unless I know there's been a few companies come to town looking at stuff, but we haven't seen people come up here looking for housing. We're just having housing issues based off of what the normal Minot stuff, right? Yeah. And if we have that 2,500 to 4,000 people push coming into town looking for housing, it's really going to create an issue because you could turn around and sell your house for 20% over the appraised value because you'll have people fighting over it.
Right. That part's terrible.
It is.
Wrong. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem, and it's not going to be fixed. The housing, there's a problem with housing, and then this plan that's set out is definitely a problem because it doesn't fix the core problem.
No.
And if the state says, oh, you know what? We can't do that anymore, or we don't want to do that anymore, and they go and they pass legislation that rolls it back, then you still have your tax bill because the cities were still able to spend. They only have that. They have that 3% cap. But think about this for Minot. I know this is like a little bit futuristic, but we're in some big projects right now.
Mm-hmm.
A 3% cap in a couple of years won't hurt us because we can go and say we can spend a $200 million budget, even though we just lost, whatever percentage of flood control just completed.
Right.
But now we have $40 million just using random numbers, $40 million in this budget that should go away. But if we let that drop, then
the flood control stuff is a little different though because that's sales tax pennies, right? So that isn't property tax.
And so that was a question that I had with it because the cap. How does that cap work?
So the cap is just on property taxes. So let's say Minot, North Dakota, last year, I believe the number was between 28 and 29 million. They collected 28 and 29 million in property tax as the city to pay for first responders and all the other things that property tax pays for. So what the state is saying with this bill is, hey, next year you can raise that 3%. Well, let me ask you a question. We, as a city council, just 2 weeks ago, gave the fire department the ability to find grants, to find new firefighters, and then start this process, right? And like Mike Blessum said at council, we are basically okaying a $1.5 million spend in the future for all these different firefighters.
Yeah.
If we can only go 3% above every year, how do we pay for those firefighters?
Yeah.
Like that becomes the problem ultimately, right? Like, so again, and I know where you're going with this. You're going to ask us why we we took a vote last night to send a letter on behalf of the city council and the city of Minot saying, look, we're fine with you fixing property tax. We are opposed to the 3% cap. And the 3% cap, again, and for everybody that's going to sit out there and say, oh, you know what, we need a cap. No, you don't. You need the right people on your city councils to keep property taxes low and not let the cities do everything that they want to do every minute, because that's what they want to do. They want to spend and grow and get bigger. Elect the right people to make sure they keep property tax down. Don't ask the state to cap property tax. There's ways to fix it the right way.
If there's a 3% cap, it almost guarantees that it doesn't guarantee, but probably a smart city would raise their budget by 3% every year.
Every year.
Why would you not?
Yep.
Because otherwise, in a year where you actually need it, where you need 6%, you're just messed up.
What happens if we have another natural disaster?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Now there's going to be FEMA funds and everything else, but one of the reasons property taxes have grown and escalated is because we have so much of our sales tax pennies tied up with flood control and other things. We had to have money to pay for some things. Yeah. Have I always agreed with it? Absolutely not.
Right.
That's why I ran for city council, and we're starting to work that back the other way. But not having the ability to do that and pay for things, how are you going to pay for the extra firefighters, the extra cops? Are we going to start laying those guys off so your essential services aren't there?
Yeah.
Or maybe what we should do is not fund the library for you, and you guys can figure out where to go rent books or whatever.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's the things that I think even myself, when I was out there as the general public, didn't think about and didn't understand, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have the ability to run the city. And I'm not talking about every year, because if you saw what we did this year, we are not going to raise property taxes 3% annually.
Right.
Our goal is to keep driving them back the other way. Right?
Absolutely. Right.
So again, it all comes down to getting the right people running your city and on your city council.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
no, I think that the 3% cap is not a good thing.
It's another arbitrary thing.
But okay, it's an arbitrary thing. But what was the biggest concern about if we go ahead and have this initiated measure pass?
We're going to take
away local control. Are you kidding me?
Now the state's telling us what we can do. Where's our local control?
Yeah.
And Scott Samuelson said that perfectly last night at City Council.
Yeah.
Keep it local. North Dakota fought to not end property tax. But here they are. The state's like, oh, let's cap it. And all of a sudden, everybody's just crickets. Nobody's saying a word. Kill North Dakota isn't saying anything. The state isn't saying anything. It's just, oh, you know what? That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It's not. So anyway, so that was a big one. I mean, you had told me beforehand we're taking some heat for it. As a city council. And I would just tell those people, reach out to me. I'll explain it to you, because it has nothing to do with raising your property taxes. It has to do with the state not being able to tell us how we can budget.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense to me. And I honestly was surprised when I started seeing how the commentary was going on it, that it was more like, this is like terrible. I'm like, but how do we think that was a good plan in the beginning? I guess I never appreciated the plan.
Let me ask them a question. Do they think their property taxes are fantastic right now? Are they happy with their property?
Right.
I mean, mine went down this year because of what we were able to do, and I'm grateful for that. But not every city has done that.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make by articulate it as well as you're beginning to articulate it there, is this does not lower your property taxes. It does not. If you are upset about how much your city is spending, if you're upset about how much your state is spending, if you're upset about how much you're paying on property taxes, the fix that the governor has proposed does not fix that.
Right.
It puts a Band-Aid on it, and over 10 years, you don't have to pay for it because there's a Band-Aid on it, but the problem is still there.
Well, you're paying for it. Your
right,
sales tax, your
Yep.
property tax that's going to the state, your oil tax revenue that should be used for other things is being used to buy down your property tax and just give you a warm fuzzy.
Right. And so the city still can spend as much as they want on
Yep.
whatever they want. They don't have to be budget conscious, except a 3% cap.
Right. So now this year, how much did Minot raise property taxes? Do you know the percentage?
How much did Minot raise property taxes?
Yeah.
I mean, you said that they increased by 30 basis points, right?
Correct. So
Right.
my property tax, even after ward counties went up, even after the park districts went up and the schools went up, my property taxes with the state $500 buy down went down about 10%.
Wow.
Right? So we lowered property tax somewhere between 7 and 10% for just about everybody in this city, maybe a little bit less depending on the value of your home, right? But we lowered property tax. Now you want the state to come in and say, okay, well, that's fine. You're doing a great job, but now we're going to cap you in case you need to do money for something. So we're doing the right things by lowering the property tax for everybody in the state or in the city. And then, but you want the state to be like, yeah, you know what? If there's a natural disaster or something happens and you need to raise property tax, you can't. You can only do 3%.
Right.
Well, then everybody's going to complain because this road isn't working or this isn't fixed. And
well, that's another problem. We have had, over the past few years, we've had so much backlog in maintenance that we just haven't taken care of.
Yeah.
And so if we had an increase, if Project Sentinel actually did come to town and this started happening and we begin to have even more traffic on our roads, but we also have increased property tax revenues.
Yeah.
To begin to pay for some of this stuff, perhaps.
Right. I mean, well, again, and we're going to talk about this other thing, the micro hospital that's coming to town. Okay, let's use that as an example.
It's a great example.
Let's say they come in and they build a $20 million facility.
Yeah.
Rough numbers, that's about $250,000 a year in property tax that we're going to collect, right? So as we develop and grow, which people are going to be like, oh, you know, we don't need this, we do need this. This is a fantastic thing for Minot, regardless of whether you believe in Trinity Hospital or not, because it's going to do two things that nobody else wants to do. Number one, they asked us to annex them into the city. We will collect property tax. We collect zero property tax from the other hospital in town because they are a nonprofit. Fine. I'm not arguing that point, but you can't say that we shouldn't let them come to town when they want to actually pay us property tax. The second thing is it's going to pull development materials, right? Gas, oil, water, infrastructure, storm sewer, all that under the highway across to that northern part of Minot, which will make a lot of that more developable in the future, right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, and I saw this online, so I'm not taking credit for this, but imagine Costco comes to town and says, hey, you know what? Great area for us to build a facility just south of the Minot Air Force Base, just north of Minot. We can service all the local communities, everything.
Right.
Right? Would Costco come to town and pull all that infrastructure under the road? Absolutely not. They want the infrastructure there before.
Yep.
And so a company that's willing to spend that kind of money and do that and help the city of Minot, I think it's a good thing. Now, people will argue all the time, you know, oh, well, you know, you'll just keep raising our property taxes anyway. No, we won't. If we grow and we have more things come to Minot that we can collect tax on, your taxes will go down.
Right.
So why do we need a 3% cap?
Right. Yeah. Why do we need it? I don't. If you were against the initiated measure because of local control, then you better be against this.
Absolutely. This is the state stepping in where I don't believe they need to step in and telling the cities, townships, counties, whatever, this is all you can do.
Right. Yeah. Because then
who's going to limit them?
That I actually texted someone that the city should have a cap right after the state has one.
Yep.
Once the state,
if you want to cap us, put one on yourselves too.
Then we can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just crazy.
It is, because they go down there, you know, and what was it last biennium? They increased the budget that the governor put out by like $2 billion, right? They wanted to spend $2 billion over what he suggested. Well, I'm guessing that wasn't 3% over the $19 billion budget, right? I mean, that's about a 10%.
Yeah.
So,
and it doesn't stop. Yeah. Terrible idea.
Do what we say, not what we do, right?
That is.
So
that is
what
them.
else? What else from the city stuff?
That zoning change.
Okay.
To me, this is being blown out of proportion, and it's because of Trinity. With all due respect to Trinity, I'm not trying to make enemies there. I'm Switzerland. I'll remind you of that. But this is simply a zoning issue.
Yeah. Trinity is, in my opinion, again, just they're making their push now because I think it's the only time they may get to make the push, right? If the zoning is approved and EHC comes in, they do everything that the city asks them to do as far as building and construction wise, it'll never get looked at again, just like the surgical center, right? That never came up to city council because that was zoned correctly. They got the building permit. They followed all the rules. And so Trinity couldn't say or do anything about that. And I suppose they may have tried there too, had that been a thing.
I believe they would have based off this.
Yes. So, I mean, again, and I said this before, I have a fondness for Trinity Hospital because of my mom that worked there for 30 years. I mean, it's a staple of Minot, and I respect and love it. But, and their guys said it last night at the city council meeting, our wait times in our ER are longer than we want.
Yeah.
That's an issue you have to fix. You have nursing staffing issues with nurses and doctors. That's an issue you have to fix. Before you go try to fix somebody else's stuff, fix your own stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that I liked about the testimony that was given, or the public appearance that was given by, I believe it was Dr. Knudsen, where he admitted that it was like, hey, you know what? This is the first time that somebody from Trinity in these public appearances has got up and said, hey, we know we're not perfect, but we're at least trying. And now there'll be people that will disagree with that part of what I just said. But hey, to this point, all I've heard you guys do is come up and just say negative things about why this for-profit should never happen and why Trinity has put money into the community. So that's why you should be against this other deal. No, actually, the open market right now says that maybe there is room for competition.
Well, and here's the thing. That argument that Minot can't support two hospitals, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with the history of Minot. St. Joe's Hospital, the first hospital built in Minot, was built in 1896.
That's before I was born.
30 years later, you don't say. 30 years later, I believe it was around 1929, Trinity Hospital built their hospital, right? Okay. And then Trinity bought out St. Joe's in 1998. So for 70 years, while Minot was a much smaller community, we had two hospitals in the city of Minot. Right? I can't buy that argument. That doesn't make sense. We're a bigger community, and North Hill has absolutely zero services.
Yeah, how far back do you guys keep records at the
Who's
city?
We? The city? Yeah. I have no idea why.
Because we should go back to like 1929 and see what St. Joe's was saying about this new hospital coming to town.
If they have, why don't you go search the microfiche and find out if they got that or not?
Right, exactly. Because it's part of open market. They did that to St. Joe's, and they bought out St. Joe's, who was there first. Yeah. And that's not to say that the for-profit will buy out the nonprofit and all that. Matter of fact, most likely, in my opinion, what's going to happen is that this is going to work for 10 years or something, maybe longer. I don't know. Yeah. And eventually Trinity will buy them out. Yeah. And it'll be good for Minot. Well,
and see, one of the other things, and, they talk about the staffing shortages, right? The staffing shortages. I have an issue with that too, because you create your own staffing shortages by not taking care of your doctors and not paying your nurses. Now, I'm going to say this, and people are going to probably criticize me, but whatever, I don't care. Trinity Hospital will pay a nurse between $30 and $43 an hour. As a 15-year maxed out nurse, you can make $43 an hour. That's the most you can make. They are currently paying travelers $55 to $75 an hour to come here and work.
And they come.
Yeah, well, of course, and depending on the time of the year, right? Winter, they're paying more versus spring and summer, et cetera. But if you paid your local staff better, we have the Dakota College at Botno nursing program. We have Minot State's nursing program. We have plenty of nursing students who would probably live and work here if Trinity didn't have the negative connotations that they have towards their staff, and they paid better. Yeah. If you're willing to pay somebody to travel from wherever to work here for $75, you're telling me you can't raise the wages of the local staff?
Right.
You have people get up and testify. One lady, and again, I don't know her whole story, but hey, I drive outside the community because I can drive to Garrison or I can drive to Bismarck or wherever and make more money than I'm making here in town. Yeah. That's Trinity's problem. That isn't the city of Minot's problem. That's Trinity's problem.
I'm just looking quickly online for Oregon because that's where I'm from. Okay. And the lowest starting wage I'm seeing is for a clinic RN, and that's at $37 an hour.
Yeah. So
And
that's what they
lowest.
start them at out there.
And you're looking at like a registered nurse at Radiant Medical Staffing, whatever that is. I don't know, $65 to $70 an hour.
Right. And we're paying maxed out 15-year nurses $43 an hour. Now, I don't know if you heard this or not. A week or so ago, there was a nursing union in town talking to nurses, trying to get, I think, nurses in North Dakota to organize in union. Yeah, and I heard that freaked Trinity out a little bit too. So
it's been a few bad days over there.
Yeah, they've had a couple bad weeks. But
well, the staffing shortage, in my opinion, and again, I don't know much. I'm just this naive Joe over here. But if it was such a big deal in Minot, then why would a for-profit
want to come here?
Yeah, why would they want to come here at all?
So the little bit, I mean, obviously when we got stuff coming up on city council, I reach out to people. So I reached out to the folks from EHC. I think it's DEC is what the.
Okay.
Anyway, they look at metrics, right? Yeah. I don't know if I told you this before or not. They look at metrics, and the metrics, the three main things they look at, is it a rural community? Yep. Whether we want to admit it or not, we're a rural community, right?
Yeah.
Is it close to a military base?
Oh, really?
Oh, go figure. We're close to a military base, right? And I don't suppose a Sentinel project coming to North Dakota is a bad thing either, right? They're probably looking at some of that stuff. But the third thing they look at, what is the wait time at the local emergency room?
Interesting.
And if it's over 4 hours, they're like, that's a community we want to be in. Now, and again, I haven't verified this. This was their information. Somewhere between 6.3 and 6.8 hours is the average wait in Minot at the emergency room. That is your own issue, right? You have created that for however reason. And again, I'm not taking shots at anybody, but just like everything else in this world, I think it comes down to leadership, right? The leadership has to make the decision to either invest in the local community and not saying, hey, we give back to the community, but invest in the people, invest in your nurses, invest in your doctors, invest in your staff, right? I mean, I think if we were to maybe ask Trinity, how many nurses are you short currently? How many doctors are you short currently? You can't say it's all their fault, but a good portion of that may be based on how they pay or how they treat people.
Right. And the only thing that I heard about nursing pay, and you may have heard some more, but was by one person from Trinity that said paying the nurses, well, they're always complaining about how much they're getting paid, basically, was essentially what they said.
Well, that was somebody from Trinity, though.
Yeah,
they'll never make enough.
They'll never make enough, yeah.
Okay.
Right. I mean, the only thing that I heard from Trinity on that subject.
Right.
But I know I'm continuing on this, but they talked about how much they invested in the community, giving back to the community. And I bet you those nurses that work for them could care less.
Yeah. Well, you just showed us our RNs in surgery or radiology or whatever it is in Oregon are making $75 an hour.
Yep.
60 to 67 to
60 to 75.
Yeah. I mean, our nurses are making half that.
But it doesn't stop there. Like, that's just one. I'm not like clinical documentation specialist, and I don't know what any of this means. 45 to 71, RN neurovascular, 48 to 66, RN registered nurse, 40 to 50.
Right. So those nurses are starting higher than our 15-year nurses are making. That is the problem. Right. It has nothing to do with EHC. You know, the staffing shortages are I believe, are self-inflicted. Honestly, they really are, because we have, like they said last night, Minot State and the Dakota College at Botno, two very big nursing programs. We should be able to fill all nursing staff. But you know what? People don't want to stay here and work because what reason? Because they hear all the bad things about Trinity, and Trinity doesn't want to pay as well.
Right.
Again, how can you ask the city to say, hey, don't create any more shortages of staff,
right,
and exasperate the problem we already created?
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
So.
It doesn't. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Now, the other thing I've heard about this, and I don't know if it's true or not, I was told this, I was shown this. Trinity collects $7 million annually for being the only emergency facility in Minot, North Dakota.
Oh, wow.
From what I understand, And again, if they only made $27 million last year because they're a nonprofit, that's 25% of that income.
Yeah.
If EHC opens, they lose that subsidy from the state of North Dakota.
Wow.
That's a big number to them. And then take on top of that, the services you're going to lose, some of the emergency services that are going to happen up there that you're not going to get. So maybe figure another $2 to $3 million. I mean, that's a $10 million hit. So I understand why they're upset.
Oh, I understand that too. I mean, even the points that they make about how what a for-profit's going to do is find the areas that they're going to make the most money off of, and the ones that are tighter, they're not going to
pass them on.
Right.
You can always say that.
Yep.
You have to prove that to me first.
Yeah,
right?
That's fair. Yep.
I mean, what's everybody's argument always going to be? They're going to be awful for the community, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're not going to do this. Yeah. They're going to give us the worst cases, and they're going to take all the best ones.
But I mean, awful for the community, awful for them. Who knows?
The other thing that I kind of chuckled at that I heard them talking about was, it's going to create undue pressure on the ambulance service. Making extra runs. They already make 800 runs a month or whatever. That was one of the few positive income line items that Trinity Hospital had in their budget, like the ambulance service. Mm-hmm. You would think you would be okay with that if that's the only place you're really making a bunch of money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So basically, does this answer a question that we had? The ambulance will still run there. They'll just build them.
Yes. So what it says in the North Dakota Century Code is that the ambulance service will have to move the patient to the closest applicable facility, meaning a facility that has the correct services for them, right? Yep. So, again, it'll depend on the type of ER doctors, I suppose, that the micro hospital would put in place. Yeah. Are every service going to be offered there? No, it's just going to be emergency services, and eventually maybe those patients will have to be transferred to Trinity when they've been stabilized or whatever. Yeah. But the argument doesn't hold a lot of water for me.
If you're coming from, I guess all we have to focus on is
let's go with a farm accident. Yep. Somebody, farmers get hurt all the time up on the farms, and a lot of them are north of us, right? Yep. That extra 15 minutes to get from North Minot to South Minot, where Trinity is, if you can stop somebody that maybe got caught in an auger, got run over, whatever it is, at that facility in North, and get them stabilized before, having surgery or anything else, you could save their lives, right? I mean, it could be the difference between laying in a bed as a vegetable your whole life or being ambulatory again, whatever it is. Yeah. So
absolutely. It's huge. So for the city, purely on the city of Minot, I don't see how this is a bad deal.
No, I don't either. Another thing we talked about last night, and I want to bring this up because I know not everybody listens to the city council meetings. Mayor Tom Ross came up with a fantastic idea. The Minot PD has obviously had some things going on over the last few months. There's been an investigation. We've lost a couple officers to suicide, unfortunately. But Mayor Ross said, hey, everybody put a blue light in your house for the month of February. Turn it on at night. So as these cops are driving around Minot, they see, hey, we support you guys. No matter what you're going through, we're here to support you. Yeah. And I think that is a fantastic idea. I mean, we have those permanent Christmas lights on our house. So last night I sat down, and when I got home, I sat down, and my wife's like, what are you doing with the Christmas lights? I'm like, I'm making up a new pattern. And she's like, what's the pattern? I'm like, just solid blue for the cops.
There we go.
And I said, we're going to start turning them on every night, and we'll leave them on every night through February. So
this is huge. And I'm sure there's a lot of ways that people can give back, so definitely do that and pay attention.
You can go buy a blue light bulb at Menards for like $4. Yeah. Put it in your outside lights, just for the month. You have one blue light, but you show the cops, hey, we support you. If you need us, we're here.
And I don't want to go deep into this, but I mean, to us as a citizen, maybe that's just a name that showed up on Facebook for somebody. But when you go and you look at that community, the police, it's a very tight community.
Oh, it is.
And you can feel that. And so
it is. I mean, those guys, there's a book I've been reading after Officer Watney took his own life. There was a book I've been reading about the emotional and mental states of cops and first responders, military, and how it affects them. And it's very eye-opening. It talks about how when you get into law enforcement, one of the first things, and it really surprised me reading it. It makes sense, but it surprised me reading it. One of the first things, all your old friends disappear. right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the people that you used to hang out with that may not be on the up and up, you know, all this stuff, all your old friendships disappear, right? Yeah. And you become very vested with the group of people you live and work with every day. You know, your personal home life may suffer. You know, it's a very isolating type job, right? And they take a lot of what they see and do and they put it back inside, so they don't bother their coworkers. They don't take it, you know. It's they need all the support we can give them. They need every ounce of support we can give them. So I think just this little thing to show, hey, we see you guys, we support you guys, we respect what you do, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So now, if you have that on, don't ask to get out of that ticket, though. If you're speeding, you still got to pay the ticket. No, believe me, as a city council member, I'll just be like, dude, give me the ticket and go about your business, please. Exactly, we don't need any issues here. That's right, so, I'm just going to give you a warning. No, give me the ticket. Right, give me 3 tickets, all right? Whatever it means. Yeah, so, for sure. Good stuff for sure. Yeah. What else you got? Anything else? Man, I think we talked about everything. I think we covered it all, too. So, good podcast. Thanks for joining us today, guys. We'll be back here next week, couple weeks. We're not sure. Probably weekly going forward if we can get everything. There's a lot going to be to talk about, as we said. So that's it for the Let's Talk About It Minot podcast. See you guys next time.